So you're interested to see which faction are the strongest one in stainless steel. Well, today we are going to rank top 5 factions, in my opinion, in stainless steel Medieval 2 Total War. Hello guys and welcome. So, as we said, we are going to run top 5 factions in stainless steel, in my opinion. My opinion will, however, be based on several things which we will take in consideration. So there are two major sections which we will cover, that is position and economy of every faction, which will include stuff like trade, type of towns they have, how well connected they are, possible resources, and where they are positioned on the map. Second section will go regarding the army and the uniqueness of that faction and the area, enemies and type of troops which they will have to counter those. So without further ado, let's go and start with our number 5. At number 5 we have Fatimid Caliphate. This is a pretty powerful faction at the beginning of the game. You start at a pretty good position and you start with the best economy at the game regarding the surplus and income which you are going to make. What else is going in favor of this faction is that the cities which you have at the beginning are in quite a good position and they are big cities. This area here, Levant, is one of the most important areas in the game, partly because of the Jerusalem, but second part is because this area over here has a good connection. It has ports. Every town here, besides Damascus, has ports and they have good roads which are connecting them, so that will boost the trade a lot. But don't be fooled, Damascus is one of the richest cities in stainless steel which you will get. Another thing which is going in favor of Fatimids, besides strong economy at the beginning, is that their cities, which they have big ones and a lot of them at the beginning, are good centers to produce armies as well. So they don't need to rely only on fortresses to build troops. Obviously you will build better troops from fortresses as well, but you can get some decent troops from cities as well for the Fatimids. The thing which is not going in favor for Fatimids and usually for the Muslim countries in general, factions in Medieval 2 Total War, is that they don't have good early spearmen, they don't have good early infantry, especially heavy infantry, and in late period they are lacking some diversity there as well. However, they are managing to overcome that with their early stages, where they have good cavalry, they have good cavalry archers, horse archers, which they can utilize, and that is something which can go a long way fighting the Western countries. So best thing regarding the Fatimids: strong economy, good position. They have an easy target here which they can deal with, especially if they manage to get some archers, especially horse archers, to overrun the Crusaders here, which are relying heavily on heavy troops which will not be able to catch you, and try to get that early expansion as fast as you can. At number 4 we have Proud Island Country faction of England. So this is a faction which has a pretty, it has the most unique starting position of all factions, together with Scotland obviously. So you are in perfect position to expand and conquer whole of the Isle. Once you do that, you can just leave Nottingham as a castle to produce troops, and you can build all of your towns, settlements, castles, whatever, into a huge economical base which will produce you a lot of money. Here you have some silver, because the resources in stainless steel are being divided and being sent around a little bit differently than the vanilla. Regarding their position, it's, as we said, a huge potential for building huge economy. You have again, all of your cities have a port connection, so that will boost the trade even more and your economy. And one key characteristic is that you can choose where you want to expand. Do you want to go and invade France at the beginning? Do you want to go and kill off the Vikingers, the Danes, the Norwegians, and revenge because of the Dane law which they had? Do you want to go and join the crusade in Al-Andalus? Or are you a little bit more exotic and you will join the crusade with several armies and try to retake the Crusader state, which will fall down to the Saracens and Fatimids, and build a new kingdom down there, carve a new kingdom? It's up to you to choose. However, why they are on 4th place here, in vanilla they would be higher, but here they are in 4th place is because the army which they get, for example, the archers which they can produce are not the greatest archers which you can get in the game. So let's go, let me just show you here for a second. So if we have fortress and we can get a range, so these yeoman archers are usually godlike in the game. However, here these longwomen and yeomans are not that godlike when compared with some other ranged units which we will have in our roster for other factions on the list. So the strongest aspect of the English, their range units, are not the strongest units in the game when it comes to the archery, which is their strongest characteristic. Regarding their infantry, they are quite unique because they have heavy billmans, which are decent and are really good heavy infantry, which can deal with late heavy infantry of Western factions. However, if you're to face, for example, Turks, these guys will not be that useful. By the time they are to go into a fight, they will be annihilated or will be reduced to a low number, and the archers which you will get to try to mitigate that and cover them as they're advancing will be in a bad position as well, because Turks have much better archers than you do. So all in all, these guys are starting with average economy with a huge potential to make a huge economy. They can choose where they want to expand, and they have a decent roster, especially late game, to try to mitigate and work their way into the top 5 factions. At number 3 we have Holy Roman Empire. This is the faction with the most flavor for everyone who is playing Medieval 2 Total War. There is not a single person, and I guarantee that it didn't try Holy Roman Empire. This is like a mythical faction in the game. This faction is really good faction for several reasons, especially in stainless steel. So it starts with great economy. You have a lot of cities and you're placed in a Central Europe. One more thing which is really good for your cities is that they're all starting with a decent size, and you building roads early on fast, building some crop fields, building some ports, and later on some trade markets will go a long way, because that will boost your economy quite a big time. Look at the starting money you're starting with, like 25,000. That's double as much as some factions, or triple the amount of some other factions in the game, and that comes because of the huge size of your empire, if we can call it. You know, they say for the Holy Roman Empire, it's neither holy nor Roman nor an empire. However, in this game, I think this is an empire. This is a game, sorry, a faction which starts as a true empire. And here is why. Not just because of its size, but because of the starting army which you get. Look at the amount of money which we are getting. We're getting almost 5k of money. But what is interesting is, look at all of these cities, castles, settlements. We are starting with such a huge number of troops at the beginning of the campaign, and we are having such a huge income. And check this, not a lot of these troops, like 95% of them are with upkeep, so they're not like upkeep free of cost. So this faction starts with a really good economy, good potential to expand wherever it wants, a huge army, so you don't have to wait for the recruitment to get several armies. You can just muster all of your troops from the settlements off the get-go, and you can have 4 armies and choose where to expand and gangbang 2 factions, and I guarantee 2 factions at the same time, and have a huge head start against all of the other opponents and factions in the game. But besides that, what else is really interesting for the Holy Roman Empire is their roster. So they are the only faction in the game that can get Teutonic Order, Teutonic Knights, and these guys will give you unique units like Retarders. I can't pronounce them, but they're basically Teutonic Knights and dismounted Teutonic Knights, which have huge defense and they have good attack. But what else goes in their favor is that these troops will frighten nearby enemies, will decrease their morale while increase the morale of your troops. At the same time, you are getting some of your own interesting units as well, like Zweihanders, which have a decent attack, but they're really good like a shock troops at the beginning, but they need support. However, they have a decent range as well, so they're overall good when it comes with the army. They have unique troops which are powerful, but in all of the other aspects of the game they are quite average and they are decent. For example, these Pavis crossbowmen are not the strongest crossbowmen or the strongest range units, but they are pretty decent and they can do a big damage and can support other units if you make a good combined arms strategy really well. So because all of those reasons, good economy, good position to expand wherever you want, huge armies at the beginning which you can utilize off the bat and maybe try to even conquer the Italian states and don't bother with them later on, this faction is on spot number 3 on my list. Well, I said earlier in this video that Turks will be on the list. It's just that I didn't tell you where they will be. So on my list, Turks or Seljuk Empire is on number 2 of this faction list, top 5 factions. This faction is pretty interesting. This is, I think, together with the Holy Roman Empire, another faction with a great flavor and with a few people who tried it. However, this is a faction which not everybody will enjoy because of its unique playstyle. So this is a faction which relies heavily on mounted archers and skirmish mode. So this is the faction with the strongest roster for heavy archers and for ranged units in general. One difficulty regarding this faction is its position and economy. Why I say so? Well, at the beginning your territories are not connected and your economy is really bad, and you don't have a lot of troops at the beginning to move off the bat, like for example with the Holy Roman Empire, where you can gather 4 armies and expand wherever you want. However, what you have, I said, is that you have those cheeky horse archers, which, and I bet you this, 1 horse archer is like 2 other cavalry units in any army roster you're to face. Why? Look, let's take for example the Sipahi cavalry, these guys. It's fairy cavalry here. So look at the defense, it's 12, so it's decent, not great, but it's decent. Melee attack, it's 7, it's much higher than any infantry unit which you will have at this stage. And look at the missile attack, it's 5. So what is good about these guys is, if you face one of these cavalry units against, let's say, 2 mailed knights, These guys will outrun them, these guys will tire them, and these guys will fire at them. If you get and you focus their general unit during that fight while you're escaping, and you're lucky enough to kill him or wound him enough, and you kind of let's say do like 50% of damage to the other cavalry unit which is chasing you as well. Once you rush, and if you kill their general, this cavalry will kill the other cavalry as well because of the morale bonus or let's say penalty which they will suffer. So the mounted archers are the bread and butter of this faction. Economy is really bad, as we said. Position is not great. You don't have good big cities at the beginning. The only city is Iconium, which is a big city and bringing you money. However, again, this is also the blessing which you have. You can choose where you want to expand. So there are two options usually which you can pick. Go and gangbang the Byzantines and capture the rest of the Crusader armies which are holding Athens, Thessaloniki and Constantinople, and build your base in a little bit westerner part of Anatolia, or you can push for the Levant and push far east. However, one more thing you need to watch for are the Mongols, and in stainless steel you can get an alliance with them, so that way they will not attack you and you will have an enjoyable experience early on and try to expand westwards as much as you want. There are a few towns which you want to expand fast with this faction. One of the priorities, as I said, if we are going to push to the west, is Constantinople, Thessaloniki, Athens. Try to get those as fast as you can. If you're, on the other hand, trying to push east, and then you want to go and push Levant and knock out the Egypt of the game. Whatever, you need to capture Baghdad and these two settlements over here in Mesopotamia early on as well, just because they're controlled by the rebels and you don't want the Mongols to take them. You want to control them because they will produce you money and they're in good position to provide you with some decent resources which you can use. So Seljuks, not the greatest starting economy, but has a huge potential because of the possibility of advancing and capturing huge cities here in Western Anatolia and Thrace, or pushing into a Levant, which eventually you will do, and get a huge bonus in these cities here, which are wealthy, well connected, have huge resources, have ports. You have one of the best armies, especially because of the horse archers. You have great dismounted archers as well when it comes to Ottoman infantry, or even some heavy archers which you will get later on. And there is one unique thing regarding the Seljuks which is making them stand out from any other Muslim faction in the game, and that is you can get decent heavy infantry, but that is late game. Janissaries, they are great. So they have halberds, they are good against any Western country because they can counter them. They have armor piercing bonus, which is basically countering the armor and the roster which the Western countries will have. You have horse archers countering them as well, and if they bring their archers, you have your own archers which are pretty decent, and once they are done with the firing their missiles, they have decent attack and defense that they can join the fight and overpower your enemies and use them as a shock troops or flanking troops once they use all of their ammo. This is why Turks are in number 2, because of the flavor, good possibility to start, and a good army. However, they are not easy faction to play, but if you do them well in first 10 turns of the game, you are setting up to be the strongest faction in the game off the get-go. So, on number 1, we have Chivalrous Faction of France. This faction is the strongest faction in the game. They have, in my opinion, best position to start upon, strongest army late game out of all factions in the game, and they have third starting economy in the game. This faction is a powerhouse of Western Europe. You're in a special position here. So you're starting with the control of Rhine region here and controlling the French and Britannia region. What you have here is a great opportunity to expand in several directions. So, regarding the position, you can go and try to capture these Flemish rebels here, and from there launch the invasion of England. Do you remember that we said previously on this list that England has a special starting position, unique starting position, because they start on an isle and they can make an economical powerhouse on that island. Well, you know what? That is at the same time they're cursed, because they are locked in that island. And if you manage to get 2 armies there and start rampaging, capturing Nottingham and London off the bat, they're basically put out of the game. They will be able to produce basic spear units, and you will be able to make havoc out of them. And once you capture all of the British Isles, you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can just move on and find the next target. Second thing regarding this faction is you have a good possibility to expand into Italy. You go and you capture here Marseilles, and you start Milan, Genoa, Venice, Bologna, Florence, Rome, Ancona. So you can expand here in Italian region, the most wealthiest region in the game early on as well. You have a great possibility to move there. However, if not even that is enough, you can move to the Iberia as well. You can go and you can capture this peninsula here, you can put some ships here, and you don't even have to worry about these factions over here, about the Moors if they are alive. You can just send merchants to collect gold and silver which they are producing here, and get some money, which will be, let's be honest, a huge amount of money for your faction. So this faction, so France, is a faction with the strongest starting position in my opinion, just because of the possibility of pushing into an areas which are, let's say, a dead end, so you don't have to worry about anybody attacking you from behind, and they are wealthy areas which you can just use as an economical basis. And you can use, let's say, I don't know, the Rhine region here, let's say Lyon, you can even capture Metz later on, and use these areas, and Angers of course, to produce armies, while all of your western all of your western settlements will be used as a powerhouse and economical base for your faction. This is why I'm telling you that the French position is the strongest one. We also said that they have a pretty decent economy at the beginning, so they're starting with a decent amount of money, but look at the income which they're starting. Wow, man, this is huge. And they're starting with some decent number of troops off the bat, so they are really usable armies at the beginning which you can use to push forward and grab territories. They don't have any special units at the beginning, nor that they are quite powerful at the beginning as much as they will be late on regarding the army composition. And now I'm going to show you why they are the strongest armies in the game, late game. Okay, let's take a look. Let's go to the range. What is this? Scott Guard. Oh my, look at this. They have the highest amount of defense for any archer unit in the game with the Scots Guard. They have decent melee, decent missile attack, and look at this, 16 defense. God damn, that is like, if you manage to get them a plate armor to upgrade them a little bit as well, they can be like feudal knights. And look at it, it's 16 for these missile troops. Let me show you something. Light man at arms, 16, and they have 4 attack, these guys have 6. So basically your archer units can be like double as useful. They can be used as a melee unit because they are stronger than light man at arms, and they have a possibility of firing arrows and doing damage for the opponents as they're approaching. So you are tiring them, you're skirmishing them, and by the time they come, you don't run with the Scott Guard, you charge. you retreat forward, let's say. So that's something, you know, usually something what French don't do. They advance backwards, but in this game they retreat forward. Interesting. But we are not stopping just there. They have their unique, let's say, halberd unit of Vulgiers as well. These are good units if you want to block stuff. They're like pikemans, nothing special, but they are unique. They have halberdiers like any other Western factions, but not like English where they have heavy billmans. But there is one more thing regarding them, is that, not actually one more, several more, but they have I can't pronounce it, but look at this, 13 missile attack. This is as high as Pavi's crossbowmen, but look at the defense, 15 again, huge defense, guys, and even the melee attack is higher than the light man-at-arms. So again, their archers, the heavily armored archers, are tanks, or literally tanks. They fire and they fight. That's the bread and butter. That's the flavor of this faction. Heavily armored units which stand their ground, fight, and when it comes to the close quarters, they don't retreat. You use the armor you have and you put it to the full potential, and you push forward, you fight for your ground. There is another thing regarding these guys. They have pistoliers late game as well, which they can use. They are quite unique because they have firearms and they run horses, something, you know, Turks don't have. They have fairy cavalry, but you don't have pistoliers. And look at these lancers, man. They have the highest armor of all units, all of the faction units in this game. Look at this, 31, 27 armor, guys. Come on, what is this? How do you kill this, man? This is huge. Cavalry is a huge unit in this game. It has huge potential. It breaks. It's the strongest type of unit in the game. It was nerfed a little bit in stainless steel, but not to the ground. It's still super powerful. It can be stopped by some type of units and it will not break them completely, but it will still do huge damage. However, with lancers, these guys are still OP. These guys will cut through like butter, like hot knife through a butter. The only thing where you won't be able to punch through is if you have stakes. But if you don't have stakes, they will punch through anything which is in their line. So these guys are super heavy units in the late game. And there is one more unique thing for these guys, is that they have Royal Officers Academy, which if they manage to get, so they can get some more heavy cavalry which they can build from their cities. So it's not like that we can just produce heavily armored archers, heavily armored cavalry from our castles. We can produce heavily armored cavalry from our cities as well. So this is where I will repeat again, this is the flavor of this faction. Heavy armor, late game professionals. We stand ground, we do damage as they're approaching, and when they come close, when we can see the white in their eyes, we charge forward and we finish the job. With this, great starting position, great possibility to expand early on, good economy, great potential to make a huge economical powerhouse in the West, and armies in a late game which are unstoppable. This faction deserves the spot which it has, and it is the strongest faction in stainless steel Medieval 2 Total War, in my opinion. So guys, if you enjoyed this video, I hope you will like and comment down below and tell me, do you agree with my list? What is your favorite faction in the game? And comment, do you agree with the rankings how I posted it? Do you think that maybe English deserve a better spot and not number 4? Or do you maybe think that French are overrated in this game? Or maybe that the Fatimids shouldn't deserve the spot which they got? So, if you have any doubts, opinions, or you want to agree or disagree, leave a comment down below and tell me if you want to see more of these type of videos in the future. Until then, thank you guys, and I'll see you.